Hi friends, welcome to another video on GT coding. In this video we are going to learn about counters in CSS. So counters are basically variables which can be used for numbering, and you may be knowing about a tag called OL, which stands for ordered list, which can be used in HTML to give numberings. For example, if we have item 1 and item 2, if we refresh this, we can see that this OL tag allows us to give numbering to our items. So if we wanted to give numbers to some other element, you have to use something called counters in CSS. So let's get started. So first of all, I have set up the link of our CSS and set up a bunch of heading tags over here. This is the h1 tag, h2 tag, and 3 h3 tags. So we are going to work on counters using this HTML document. So let's go to our CSS and start from there. So in our CSS we will access our h3, and we can see that it is highlighted over here. But before explaining counters, let me explain you something that will be useful for learning counters, that is called the before and after pseudo elements. So there are pseudo elements in HTML which can be used for some special purposes. For example, if we have a pseudo element called before in our CSS, we can add some text or some kind of information before our element. So for example, if we add the before pseudo element to our h3 tag, for example h3 before, and we'll use a keyword called content, and in here if we type hi, we can see that hi gets displayed in front of every h3 tag we have. So we can see hi is displayed in front of every h3 tag. We cannot select it, but we are printing it from our CSS. So that is the use of our before tag. In the same way, after tag can be used to print something after our element. So here we can see by is printed after our element. So these two pseudo elements can be used in our counters in CSS. So let's get started with our counters. So first of all, you have to reset our counter with some name. So we will reset it in the body. In the body of our HTML, we will type counter reset, and we will give a name for our counter called my counter. And now we will type in h3 before, and here we will increment our counter because when we set up this counter reset over here, our counter value is 0. So we have to increment our counter every time we come across an h3 element. So we will type in counter increment and give the name of our counter, and now we have to just type in content, and here we will type counter, and in parentheses we will type the name of our counter. Here we can see that our numbering is seen over here. We can do some customization. For example, type in a dot and a space. So this is how counters can be used in CSS. So there are multiple different options that you can use over here. So you can also give some different styling to our counter. For example, we will change the color of our text to blue. We can also add some other information over here. For example, OS number 1, OS number 2. So we'll also add we'll also decrease the font size to 12 pt and font style to italic. So another thing that you can do with counters is that you can have multiple counters. So for example, we will type another counter called my second counter, and in here you can also set the reset value of our counter. For example, if you set it to 5, the counter will be set to 5, and from then on it will increment or decrement. So we'll just type in 40, and now we will increment our second counter. So in increment you can also decrement the counter by giving it a negative value. For example, if we give it negative value of -10, it will decrement from 30, 20 to 10. So we will add our second counter after our element, so we will type in s3 after, and we have incremented our counter over here, so we don't need to do that. We'll just have to type content and type in counter and the name of our counter. So here we can see our counter is displayed on the screen: 30, 20 and 10. You can also add some customization. Just add a space over here. So there you go. We'll also customize some other things. Color to red, and we'll set the vertical alignment. Vertical alignment is used to make it superscript or subscript and things like that. So we'll set it to super, and we can see that it has moved a little bit up, and we'll set the font size to 10 points. So that's it for our second counter. So in this way you can use multiple counters in your CSS. First of all, you have to reset the counter and set a value. If you don't set a value, it just sets the counter to 0, and then you have to increment, and if you don't give any additional information to the counter, it will just increment by 1. And if you want to decrement the counter, just give it a negative value, and then just type in content and type in counter and the name of your counter, and you can customize it as you want. So this is how a counter can be used in using CSS. So I hope you have understood this. Now I will talk about something different, which is called nested counters. You can give numberings to subsections in your HTML, so let's just do that. So I have set up an ordered list over here. So we have an ordered list, and in that we have different sections. For example, we have this first point, and then in the next list item we have another ordered list. So in that, here we have another ordered list. So then we have another ordered list over here. Then this list ends over here. Then we have another list item, and then this ordered list ends over here, and this list item ends over here. Then we have another list item, and finally we close our main ordered list. So this is a nested ordered list that we have. Now we will customize our ordered list to have proper numbering for our subsections. So we'll go to our CSS, and here we will type oil, and we will create a new counter reset, and we will set its value to C. So now we will set the list style type to none, because we don't want these numbers over here. We will add them using our counters. So we'll just type in none, and here in the li before we will type counter increment C and content, we'll type in counters. We have to type in counters over here because we are going to give it two different values. So we'll just type C and put a dot over here and give a space. So here we can see that we have our sections and subsections numbered correctly. We will just increase the font size. So here we can see we have our first point, the second point, and in that we have 2.1, 2.2, and in that we have subsections 2.2.1, 2.2.2, and so on. And after that we just continue with 2.3, and at last we have the third point. So this is how nested counters are used. So it is basically used to give proper numberings to our subsections. So we can customize it to whatever we want. We can type in hyphen over here or a space or anything you want, and in this way you can customize your ordered list. So this is basically what counters are in CSS. So I hope that you have understood how to use counters in CSS. If you have any doubts, you can comment below, and if you like this video, please click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to this channel to get the latest news. So thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.